Welcome to the Cayman's Island podcast, where we talk all things San Francisco 49ers. I'm your host, David Cayman, and with free agency quickly approaching and contract negotiations beginning to heat up, I thought what better time than now than to have the Brock Purdy conversation. Let's get it. Now, for whatever reason, Brock Purdy has been a very contentious topic for quite some time. And I think when you dig into this, you're going to see that there's not a lot of middle ground at all. Either you're a Brock guy and Brock Purdy's a long-term solution at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers franchise, or you just think he's just not that dude, right? And the goal for today's show is to just dig into a few topics that I feel if we take that 10,000-foot view, I feel like we'll get a better idea of why the franchise appears to feel like Brock Purdy is the long-term solution at quarterback going forward for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm a longtime 49ers fan, diehard fan, and I can see both sides of the coin as to why there's not a lot of middle ground. And I really think from a 49ers fan perspective, it really comes from a place of hurt. We have, since Steve Young, been trying to find that dude at quarterback, right? We've been right there several times, double-digit leads in Super Bowls, or in the case of the Ravens Super Bowl, to come all the way back to be first and goal from the 7 and choke it away. So I think from a 49ers fan perspective, it's that once again, we get right there, we have a lead in overtime, and we don't get it done, right? We're sick of it, blow this thing up, start all over again. So I really feel like you have those fans that's just fed up with it and want a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow type of difference maker at quarterback, okay? Then you have the other fan side shop, right? The other fans where Brock Purdy can do no wrong at all. If Brock throws a game-sealing interception, it's the offensive line's fault, or their defense could not make a stop. So where is the middle ground? Where is this balance between both sides of the fan shop here? In addition to that, I've talked to several fans of other NFL franchises. I've seen a lot of content online, listened to a lot of sports talking heads, and you still seem to get that large divide of he's not worth the contract that he's going to demand, make him play out his final year on his contract, allow him to go out and seek out other teams for a Brandon Ayuk type of trade situation, right? See how much his value is, on the open market. Like I said, I really want to take a deep dive into this because I think that the knee-jerk reaction of just getting rid of Brock or Brock's the guy, give him a blank check. And I think there needs to be a conversation about the middle ground. So first thing I want to talk about is Brock Purdy's intangibles, right? Brock Purdy, the guy, Brock Purdy, the face of the San Francisco 49ers long-term at quarterback. I really do believe Kyle, I really do believe Jed, I really do believe John, that they feel like Brock's the guy. And with that, I think we should look at maybe at where did they get that from? How does Brock Purdy represent the San Francisco 49ers NFL franchise? After every game, regardless of a good performance, subpar performance, Brock is the first guy to own his issue. So he's always talking about, even if he has 350 yards, 3 tutties, no turnovers, he's saying, hey, I missed a few throws there, and there's some things that I can improve on. And in the face of adversity, if there's a situation where he makes a mistake, he's the first to own it. I've even heard Brock a few times this year, even when it clearly was a receiver's drop ball or a missed block or a stop that wasn't made, Brock's the first guy up to the podium saying, hey, you have to put this on me. I, as a player, I, as a representative of this 49ers storied franchise, has to be better for this city and for these fans. And that's something I really respect. And I think we would all agree. You can look this up online, look at shows, whatever. Pretty much everyone agrees that Brock Purdy is a real good dude. He's a really nice guy. He seems like he's a good kid. I don't think you're going to have any type of situations where, and again, I don't know Brock personally, but he strikes me as a type of person that's always going to work on his craft. You're not going to have to worry about, is he going to continue to try to improve, if he is going to continue to work hard after he gets paid, that type of thing. I also respect the fact that these guys on this team, your George Kittles, of the world, your Fred Warners, when asked about Brock, there's really no hesitation at all. And when it comes to George Kittle, what doesn't this guy say if it's on his mind? So I would definitely say, with the comments that come from the team, I feel that they really truly do support Brock along with the front office. I really do see a long-term contract negotiation happening. One of the things that really impressed me as well is what Dominic Pooney had to say about Brock. The fact that before Dominique's first game, Brock pulled him aside and just said, hey, do your job. And everything else, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically everything else will take care of itself. And Dominic Pooney explained basically that really meant a lot to him and helped him settle down. He seems like a real humble kid that knows where he came from. He understands that he's going to have this last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant label for the remainder of his career, regardless if he would have pulled out the Super Bowl win against Kansas City. This is always a label that the world is really going to place on him for the remainder of his career. Another thing that I personally really respect about Brock Purdy is the fact that he is absolutely, positively unapologetic about his faith. And I am absolutely the same way. God is good, man. Christ is king. And I really personally respect that a lot about Brock in regards to that. And it segues me into really the next topic I wanted to get into, which is the contract situation of the contract negotiations. I really feel as though a lot of folks feel that because Brock Purdy is this good Christian kid that he should absolutely take a Baker Mayfield type of deal or take a team-friendly contract. And that's a bit strange to me. So if I were to go and apply to be a consultant at a Fortune 500 company and I had a suitor contact me to make an offer for employment, and they offered me some money, and just because I'm a nice guy, should I devalue my worth and say, you know what, that's a very good offer, but because I'm a nice guy, is there any way I can accept the offer for half that value? So I don't think that's something that we should look at. You never want to or should be expected to devalue your worth. If we just look at this thing from a 10,000 foot view, at quarterback, this is just the market for good, bad, indifferent reasons. Absolutely, you never want to hamstring yourself by putting a bulk amount of money into one player. However, for a good quarterback, and I do feel that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, it's just really the market value. Now, do I think that Brock Purdy is worth a $70 million contract? No, I don't believe that's the case at all. I really trust in that front office. I really trust in Parag to pull off some contract magic here that will allow Brock to get paid what his worth and what his value is, while also being team friendly, if that makes sense. But guys, if we just look at this in retrospect, we look at a Jordan Love deal, we look at a Trevor Lawrence deal, and a lot of people feel like those guys don't deserve that type of money either. I believe Trevor's won, I want to say, one playoff game. I want to say that Jordan Love, I believe, has won just one playoff game, right? So those guys aren't super proven. And I would say that Brock has definitely outperformed those guys if you want to talk stats to stats. Another thing really I would say about the contract situation is I think we have seen the best and worst of Brock Purdy. And when you look at the way we run our offense, the offensive scheme, Kyle Shanahan is really in the best position to know whether or not Brock can get the job done. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo, you look at the fact that Jimmy had a lot of success in the system, but I really feel like Kyle and that front office knew over time that Jimmy just was not that guy. Jimmy could effectively run an offense, but that was it. It just didn't seem like he had that it factor. And when you compare that with Brock, I think we would all agree that Brock's definitely a better athlete. Brock is definitely better than Jimmy Garoppolo, even though, again, Jimmy Garoppolo, let's be realistic, Jimmy had some success. Again, we can go into the fact that, yeah, he had a super team and such, but the guy won games. And I think what I've seen, the difference with Brock and why maybe the front office feels the way they feel from a 10,000-foot view is that we've seen Brock in the playoffs and got to have it drives. Green Bay. Let's not discount what he did against Detroit. Let's not discount his performance in the Super Bowl. And I want to be clear, Brock did miss some throws. Absolutely did miss some throws. However, and got to have it drives, drove down the field, got points on the board, a lead against Kansas City in overtime. Okay? So I think we've seen that Brock Purdy can be that guy. I believe that Brock Purdy, we can win a Super Bowl. I understand that the team surrounding Brock may not be as great in the future because of the contract situation. However, the team that we constructed, do we still have that faith in the front office to have another good draft like they did this past draft, right? This team did draft guys like George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, even though he's about to no longer be a 49er. What I'm getting at is, where is that middle ground? Do we just think after this really bad season with tragedy, injuries, do we really think that this is completely over? The 49ers are done. Tear it all down. It's full rebuild time. I really don't think that's the case. I think we have some good fundamental pieces. I feel that if we have a very solid draft, and not to mention that our schedule is a cakewalk next year, I think we can have success. The biggest thing is you want to get into the dance, right? You get into the dance. The leaders on this team are very veteran, and I feel that we can definitely compete for a championship if we can just get to the dance. If you were to say that the 2023 49ers, and by no means do I feel like the 2023 49ers are walking through that door next season, but if you had 80% of 2023 success with the schedule we have next season, I would really wonder if you would say the Niners had an opportunity to go undefeated in the regular season. I know that kind of seems far-fetched now, but think about the season that we had a few years ago, right? So I do know this. I do know the front office will take every step, every measure, look at free agency, willing to make a trade, willing to do things in the draft to improve this team. So I do have middle ground confidence that we can get back to the playoffs next year, certainly. Last topic I want to talk about for Brock Purdy is the statistics. Now, I think this is really where the contention comes from. If you look at Brock's 23 season compared to 24 season, depending upon what side of the argument you want to go to, you can really make it a point that Brock should absolutely back the truck up, give him whatever he wants type of money. Or you can use that same statistical argument to say maybe a Sam Darnold, maybe a Kirk Cousins option next season is the way to go if Brock wants to hold out for money. I do not see that happening. I really think that we're going to absolutely get a long-term contract that works for both sides done very soon. But if you go and you use last year, for example, if you wanted to go and utilize Brock's stats from last year to prove the argument that he had pretty much I would say like a pedestrian season. So you got 15 games played, 65.9% completion percentage, 3,864 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, 96.1 passer rating. He had 323 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. You could use that and say, for somebody that's going to demand $60 million a year, that's just not it. I actually feel like the eye test is more of a use case than these actual statistics for last year. Brock had an opportunity in 2024 to prove to the world that he's the next Josh Allen or he's the next Lamar Jackson, right? Where he could really carry a team all on his own and get the job done and carry this team into the playoffs, right? The guys that I just mentioned, Josh Allen, have we ever seen someone this big, this physical, this much of a cannon arm ever before? Lamar Jackson, this is another guy that's a one-of-one talent. I'm not even going to bring up Patrick Mahomes, guys, because again, this is a one-of-one doing things, performing, doing things that we've never seen before. I think we have to start getting a bit more realistic on these comparisons. But you can use those statistics to say, okay, let's compare those to a Sam Darnold or a Jared Goff. There's no way in the world you should sit here and pay Brock Purdy more money per year than a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, right? That would be crazy. But again, if you look at that 10,000-foot view, guys, it just is what it is. It is the market right now. That's just the way it is when it comes to the quarterback position, especially a good quarterback that you feel good about, which the front office has mentioned numerous times. Now, you can use these 2023 statistics. 16 games played, 69.4% completion percentage, 4,280 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 113% passer rating, 2 rushing touchdowns, not to mention that he came in 4th in MVP voting. All right, so you can use that season and just say, man, if the team were healthier, hey, if there wasn't all of this tragedy, hey, if we could have held on to a lead in this game, that game, whatever. Bottom line is there was a few times where Brock did not pass the eye test this year, where Brock could have made a throw here or there or not thrown it up, right? I really feel like Brock tried to do way too much this year. I think Brock is a solid quarterback. I think he's a great leader. I think he can get the job done. But I do not think that he's in that top tier echelon of just carrying a team or putting a team on your back and winning. It's funny when I think about that too, because I look at guys that I think most everyone would consider these can carry a team type of quarterbacks. Your Lamar Jackson, your Josh Allen, your Joe Burrow. And how many of those guys have gotten it done? You know what I mean? How many of those guys have even gotten to overtime in a Super Bowl? None of them. I know that Joe made it and lost to the Rams. So with that being said, I hope that some of this conversation today has just sparked some thought. Take a deep breath. Look at that 10,000-foot view. Recognize that the NFL is just a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, and for the quarterback position, you're going to have to pay a good quarterback that you want to keep. Again, I'm going to say it. I think Parag is going to do what Parag does well, and is have a couple of years where it's not cap heavy up front and we can still make moves. We have a lot of money that we carried over from last year. I'm really confident that ownership is going to do whatever they can to continue to help us be a competitive NFL franchise. If you got any comments, please feel free to leave them. If you like what you saw today, and subscribe. Appreciate your time today. Y'all take care.